Welcome to Creepypasta. Please like, share and subscribe. This will help us make more content for you. Thank you.
The Red Lamp. I lived an entire life while I was unconscious. Throw away account, cause this is really personal. My last semester at a certain college, I was assaulted by a football player for walking where he was trying to drive. Note, he was 325 pounds, I was 120 pounds, while unconscious on the ground I lived a different life. I met a wonderful young lady, she made my heart skip and my face red. I pursued her for months, and dispatched a few jerk boyfriends before I finally won her over. After 2 years we got married and almost immediately she bore me a daughter. I had a great job and my wife didn't have to work outside of the house. When my daughter was 2, she, my wife, bore me a son. My son was the joy of my life. I would walk into his room every morning before I left for work and doted on him and my daughter. One day while sitting on the couch, I noticed that the perspective of the lamp was odd, like inverted. It was still in 3D but just wrong. It was a square lamp base, red with gold trim, on 4 legs and a white square shade. I was transfixed, I couldn't look away from it. I stayed up all night staring at it. The next morning I didn't go to work, something was just not right about that lamp. I stopped eating, I left the couch only to use the bathroom at first, soon I stopped that too, as I wasn't eating or drinking. I stared at the lamp for 3 days before my wife got really worried. She had someone come and try to talk to me. By this time my cognizance was breaking up, and my wife was freaking out. She took the kids to her mother's house just before I had my epiphany. The lamp is not real, the house is not real, my wife, my kids, none of that is real, the last 10 years of my life are not real. The lamp started to grow wider and deeper, it was still inverted dimensions, it took up my entire perspective and all I could see was red. I heard voices, screams, all kinds of weird noises, and I became aware of pain, a shit ton of pain. The first words I said were, "I'm missing teeth," and opened my eyes. I was laying on my back on the sidewalk, surrounded by people that I didn't know, lots were freaking out, I was completely confused. At some point a cop scooped me up, dragged, walked me across the sidewalk in grass, and threw me face down in the back of a cop car. I was still confused. I was taken to the hospital by the cop, seems he didn't want to wait for the ambulance to arrive, and give CT scans and shit. I went through about 3 years of horrid depression, I was grieving the loss of my wife and children, and dealing with the knowledge that they never existed. I was scared that I was going insane as I would cry myself to sleep, hoping I would see her in my dreams. I never have, but sometimes I see my son, usually just a glimpse out of my peripheral vision. He is perpetually 5 years old, and I can never hear what he says. Edit. I've had many PMs describing similar experiences, and 3 posters stating such experiences are impossible. I'd say more research needs to be done on brain functions. Pre-med students, don't assume you know everything.
Comments. This is pretty creepy. I used to get bronchitis often, every 2 or 3 months, and one time it was particularly bad. I had friends checking in on me, making sure I took my meds regularly, and one friend made a lot of echinacea tea, and made sure I drank it regularly. I have no memory of this time. During that time I lived a completely different life. It wasn't 10 years, though, just a few weeks. Up until I got sick, I was very unhappy with life in general. Very depressed a lot of the time. My best friend had died recently, and basically my whole life sucked, and I could not find ways to fix it. During these few weeks where I was out, I managed to find ways to fix most of these problems. My friend even came back. I was super happy, met a great girl. Huge promotion at work. Everything was better. One afternoon, my friend and I were hanging out at our favorite bar, and I realized I hadn't shown him any of the tattoos I got while he was dead. I went to show him the one I got in memorial of him, and it was literally dripping off my skin. As were all the other tattoos I had gotten since his death. At that point it occurred to me that he was dead. That I somehow had a child with this woman I had met a few weeks ago, and that the bar we were in was abandoned and empty, and lined with cobwebs, which I had noticed before, but it didn't seem weird until just that moment. That whole existence ends there, in that abandoned bar. No more story there. I assume this is when I started walking around on my own again, but I still have no memory of that either. In fact, I have no memory of anything for a week after I woke up and started walking around again. During that week, my friends tell me I didn't speak or make eye contact. Rarely ate in front of anyone, they left food out for me. They came back to an empty dish. I didn't die, I must have been eating. I have no memory of any of this. My first memories kick back in while I'm at work. It was difficult to cope with this. To finally get all this weight off my shoulders and finally be happy again. To finally put that part of my life behind me was the best feeling I've ever experienced. And then to wake up and find out that's not real is hard. It's hard to accept as reality. Every night you go to bed, expecting to wake up in that dream world, and learn that bad world was actually the dream. Never happened. This was 3 or 4 years ago now. Sometimes when I'm really stressed out, little pieces will creep into dreams. The dripping tattoos, for example. But the one that haunts me the most is every once in a while I will have a dream where I'm on the couch with my son, the same from above, and my wife is in the kitchen doing something. The phone rings, and I answer, and it's my current girlfriend. She asks what the noise is, and I say, "That's my son," and as soon as I say that, it becomes obvious to me that she isn't the mother and she's not my wife in the kitchen. Then I wake up. I know it's my stupid brain screwing with me, but something in my head that I can't quite explain knows that this is reality that hasn't yet come to pass. Or a reality I missed the turn for. It's so real. It has actually caused some problems between myself and my girlfriend, because in the back of my brain I know someday I will meet my wife and this is temporary. I've had doctors try to tell me I'm making this all up. It's pretty scary for someone to come up and explain almost the same thing, without ever hearing me explain it before. Like this could be an actual thing. I feel for you, dude. I can't explain how painful it is to lose something that great. And then have to try to explain to yourself that you never had it to begin with. I have a question though. Do you ever run across things like that lamp in the real world? Does it terrify the hell out of you? Years later, I still have moments where I think I see something glitchy like that, and the anxiety is instant. Like I'm about to lose my reality again. Wow, dude. Scary day now. Thanks for posting this. I've never talked about this before, and it's somehow comforting to write it all down.
OP. I'm terrified of finding the lamp in real life. My life is pretty great right now, and to wake up and find all my adventures, achievements, romances and goals would be pretty hard to deal with, unless I woke up next to her. I understand the anxiety of not knowing which reality is really reality.
The interesting, and perhaps scary, thing to think about is, what if it isn't real, and you reading that man's story on the internet is just your way of telling yourself that this isn't real? And this would be telling you the same.
You clearly had a pretty intense, near-death experience. There isn't scientific consensus, so we can't say for sure, but your experience may have been the result of a release of a massive amount of DMT into your brain from the pineal gland, due to the amount of stress your body was under.
I once dreamed I lived for 100 years as a farmer. I remember my whole life working in a field somewhere in a fictional location in Europe, getting married, my wife dying, adopting a wolf as a pet dog, hiking through the country. I traveled often afoot for days and weeks, away from my home, going into town, growing old, dying. Looking back, I can remember specific days in that life. Profound experiences I had. My approach to death. And they each stand out to me as something I experienced in real time, never rushed, but sometimes blurry. And at the same time, I know that the dream took place over the course of one night. The thought of those conflicting time schemes isn't really rationally reconcilable. I understand it on an emotional level, like a thought that's also a feeling. But I have no frame of reference in reality that makes describing my understanding of it possible.
Do you have a creepy story? Please share it with us in the comments, and we will post it on the channel. Please subscribe. Thank you.